One.
Good morning. I would like to thank each of you for attending Ogden's first virtual reopening meeting. Thank you to the 89 survey respondents. I hope that today we can answer most of your questions. However, please remember that we will have another meeting next week on August 26th at 10 a.m. and then a meeting the week of August 31st, which is still TBD. You are more than welcome to submit questions today using our chat feature. If we do not respond to those questions today, we will be sure to address them in the following weeks. In addition, please remember that we are recording this meeting and it will be posted by the end of the week to the Ogden website, so you can revisit it at any time or tell anyone who missed it that they can watch the recorded meeting. I want to let you know that the district also has many documents that can help you understand the process we have gone through up until this point. This is the first document. It is the district's 2020-2021 school reopening guidance, and I'm going to take you there now so you could see how to access it. This is essentially the district's main website. Up here you will see a link, 2020-2021 school reopening. If you click on that link, it takes you to this page that has the school reopening plan that was submitted to New York State. It's all here, all 35 pages. And the other very, very helpful document is the school reopening FAQ that answers many questions you may have. So please, I urge you to take the time to look through this document to gain a better understanding of some of the answers to commonly asked questions. Also know that Ms. Barbara Geese, Community Relations Director, is working on adding questions as they continue to come in. There was also a Board of Education meeting last night, and that meeting was recorded and it will also be posted to the district website. There were many questions that came in, so I urge you to try to look at that as well. I want to say to you that as a parent first, I truly understand how frustrating this situation is. I too am a working mother of 3 children, and I have struggled greatly with the decision of whether or not to send my children to school and what to do with them on days that they have remote learning. This is a very personal decision and one that no one can make for you. After today's sessions and the following sessions, I hope that you will make a decision that best fits the needs of your family. In June, a task force of 40 different members representing administrators and teachers from each building, members of the superintendency, parents, the Hewlett-Woodmere Public School physician, the lead nurse, Nassau County Police Department member, food service director, and community relations director worked together to formulate a reopening plan. And that's the plan I just showed you on the district website. The members of this larger group were split into subgroups, with each tackling a different area to safely get our students and staff back into the classroom. We have been meeting weekly or bi-weekly, trying to make sense of all of the guidance and recommendations coming from the New York State Education Department, the Center for Disease Control, and the Nassau County Department of Health. The release of the NYSED, New York State Education Department, guidance document in mid-July, which was about July 13th, was only 145 pages. And we had a few days to digest that and then offer recommendations for the safe reopening of the Hewlett-Woodmere Public Schools to the state by July 31st. Again, I showed you where that was posted on the district website. And although I wish I could say we have all the answers to every question you have today, that would be a blatant lie. We continue to have conversations about the best decisions for your child and for our staff. At the onset, I will let you know that as of today, we do not have a consensus about the wearing of masks. Any questions that have to do with masks will be addressed at our meeting on August 26th. The task force is meeting again tomorrow to discuss this very issue, and we will hopefully have the information out to you late tomorrow or early Friday, because Friday, August 21st is the last date that you can switch from full online to hybrid and in-person instruction. It's also the last date that you can change your bus transportation options. Again, thoughtful decisions take time and input of many stakeholders. We would rather make the best decision for your child than a hasty one that we all regret. As we go through the slides today, we have numerous speakers who are here with us, even though you may not be able to see them in the tiles. They include Mrs. Murray, the Assistant Principal of Ogden, Dr. Marino, Superintendent, Mr. Flatley, the Interim Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Fail, Executive Director of Human Resources, Mrs. Powerhouse, Director of School Facilities and Operations, Mr. Koch, Head Custodian at Ogden, Mrs. Rashbaum, the Lead Registered Nurse in Hewlett-Woodmere, Mrs. Griffin, the Ogden Nurse, Mr. Joe DiBartolo, Business Administrator and Transportation Director, Mrs. Kavanaugh, the Director of Instructional and Administrative Technology, Mrs. Peterson, the Executive Director for Special Education, Mr. Frank DeLeo, the Head of Security, and last but not least, Mrs. Barbara Geese, Community Relations Director. We have invited these members of the district to be present today so we can be sure to address as many areas of concern as possible. And just to let you know the format, as we go through each slide, we'll respond to the questions that you sent in on the Google form. Yesterday, Mrs. Murray and I filtered through those questions and we sent them to the appropriate member on this task force so that they can try to answer your question or concern. Okay, Mrs. Murray and I will now begin with our building practice slides. And I want to let you know that many of your questions are embedded in the responses to these items. So I hope that satisfies your question for today. Arrival and dismissal. This is a big one. We will have a staggered arrival time for those students who ride the bus and those who are walkers or driven by car. Screening and student temperatures must be completed prior to a student arriving at school. If you answer yes to any of the screening questions, you must keep your child home from school. The staff also completes the same screening each day. So every day before I step foot in Ogden, I have to take my temperature and I have to complete a screener. And all the information gets filtered to the building where at this point in time, because it's only administration and secretarial, clerical and custodial, and I review the information to be sure that no one's in the building who has checked yes to any of the screening questions. If the child enters the building with a temperature over 100 degrees, they will be escorted directly to the isolation room and a parent or guardian must pick them up. We would never embarrass any child and make a big deal at the front entrance about their temperature. We will discreetly have someone from the staff take them to the isolation room, which will now directly be across from the nurse's room. So I've worked with the head custodian on securing that room and making sure that it has a close proximity to the nurse's room. If a child arrives at school without the screener and temperature taken, Ogden staff will complete the screening and take the child's temperature. Parents will be notified if this occurs. And we encourage you, please, to help us get our students into class quickly by doing the screener at home each morning. The district is also currently looking into an app that would assist us in meeting this goal. The information would be sent to the school prior to your child's arrival, where someone would be assigned to monitor all the data. We will assign multiple entry points for students so that we do not have clusters of students in any one area. I know last year, parents, you know that I only made one area that we had to enter and exit the building, and that was the front, and that was for security reasons. We will still have security guards at the extra entrances that will be open. But again, the whole goal is so that we do not have that massive cluster of students filtering into the same entrance and leaving the building at the same exit every single day. And again, we will have additional security at those entrances and exits. Students will no longer go to the front and back gyms to line up and wait for the bell to ring. They will go directly to their classrooms. The staff members that we usually have assigned to the front and back gym will now have points in the hallways where they will be standing to direct your child safely to the classroom and make sure that they are maintaining social distance. The staggered dismissal will be where the bus students leave first, followed by the walkers. And there will be multiple points of egress again at dismissal with appropriate security. And I promise that you will be notified of the exit and entrance for your child to Ogden Elementary School. We don't want you to have to guess which exit and entrance. The next is restroom protocol. This is something we discussed in building practices. We will have pre-printed passes for one-time use. Child will just throw them out when they're done with them, instead of having those laminated passes or the wood passes that we typically have. Students will use their own pen to sign out. They will be encouraged to wash their hands before and after the bathroom. I do want to tell you that hygiene is going to become a part of the routine building that teachers focus on during the first weeks of school. These are new routines for everyone, and the more practice students get, the more second nature it will become for them. We're hoping to have aides outside of the bathrooms to assist us in making sure that only 2 students enter at once. If there is a middle stall in the Ogden bathrooms, I've already spoken with our head custodian. That stall will be locked to ensure that there is safe social distancing. Handicap accessible bathrooms will always remain open, and 1 sink will be shut in the bathroom, again for the purpose of not having 2 children side by side when they are not 6 feet apart. So these are all things that we are discussing on a daily basis with our custodial staff. Many of you asked about outdoor spaces. We are very lucky at Ogden to have spacious grounds. And yes, we will look to utilize our outdoor spaces as much as possible. We met again, head custodian, that Mr. Koch has been very busy. We will design a plan that allows a schedule for every teacher to be able to be outside with his or her class during the school day, of course, weather permitting. Visitor protocol. Must still come with your ID. You know, you don't have your ID, even if we know you, you can't get into the building. You know that we're very stringent with that. You must wear a mask to enter the building. We do not want any visitors walking through the building. So you will have a temperature check and a screener done at the door. I spoke with Mrs. Kavanaugh this morning on getting a designated iPad that the security guard Sebastian will have so that you can sign your child out. Your child will be brought to you in the front lobby. So you will not walk into the main office, you will not walk to the nurse's office. Your child will be brought to you again, all because we do not want people walking through the building during the school day. I did receive emails and questions about school supplies. As of now, student supply lists have not changed. I did send an email to teachers yesterday asking if they had any changes they would like. I am encouraging the use of those extra large Ziploc bags that can hold a student's coat and their backpack. And we are looking into them at the building at this point to try to get one for every student so that every day your children's belongings would go into that, zip it up, and put into the closet, but they will be secure and they will not be a coat touching a coat or a coat touching a book bag. It will all be in a plastic bag. School supplies, I know that we are also looking to have, someone else started sharing. I think my presentation is off. I want to be sure that the presentation is showing.
Just wait 1 second, Dina.
Sure.
Ed, you're sharing your desktop.
Okay, I could keep talking while we get the presentation up.
Dina, if you could reshare, I could put your presentation back up.
Thank you. Okay, does everyone see it again? Okay. So school supplies, again, materials cannot be shared. Pencils, glue sticks, scissors, anything that a child uses, they will have their own receptacle to keep their materials because there can be no sharing of any materials, hand-to-hand touching. Back to school night, just want you to know that at this point, it is the recommendation of the CDC and New York State that any virtual meeting, any meetings that are bringing in large groups of people are done virtually. So that is our plan unless we receive future guidance that is different. Support services, so if you have a child that receives reading or math or attends discovery, your child will still receive these support services. I have talked with Mr. Koch again about giving him a schedule of when these classes happen so that he, and leaving a little bit of a break in between before the next group of students so that they can go in, the staff, the custodial staff, and sanitize the rooms. Special area teachers, they will travel to the classes as opposed to students leaving the classroom, traveling into the hallways. We ordered them all rolling carts yesterday. And I want to talk to you a little bit now about music. Music ensemble rehearsals will begin tentatively in January. Those are large group ensembles, so that's why we say tentative, because we will await further guidance. Instrumental teachers will continue with their lessons with appropriate social distancing. During the ensemble periods, music teachers will administer the Gordon tests to grades 2 to 4. We never got to do them in the spring, unfortunately, because we were all home on remote instruction. And this helps the teachers identify the best instrument for your child. And then after the test is administered and scored, 3rd and 4th grade students will be assigned an instrument at that point. There will be no early morning band, orchestra, or chorus. And art packets of materials will be available to pick up to assist your child in finding their artistic success. And in the summer, for those of you who had children in the summer enrichment program, it worked very well where we had a time for parents to pick up materials outside of Ogden, and it was kind of like a drive-by, and we had the art teachers out front handing everything out. And so we're looking at a very similar practice. The library teacher will also have a cart, cannot open the library, cannot have students going in and touching all the books. She will bring books to the classroom. Students will be able to select the books that they would like to read. And of course, because those books were in the classroom, she will sanitize them before bringing them back to the library. Physical education will be outside whenever possible. I'm really hoping for a mild fall and winter. There will be a focus on individual activities and limited use of equipment. We will have space in the gym for classes since class sizes will be very small, but again, outside is the goal as long as the weather allows us to do so. Curricular gaps. I know that many parents are concerned about the loss of instructional time, and I want to let you know that while we were on remote learning, select teachers worked together across buildings to look at areas they felt needed bolstering, and they created scopes and sequences that were given out to all of the teachers so that they know what they need to start the year with or where the gaps lie. And teachers who ran the virtual summer enrichment used that as a building point to guide what the instruction would be during summer. So we're hoping that that makes a certain difference in the curricular gaps. Placement letters and cohort groups. Again, I know that you need these letters about, what cohort is my group in, my child, and if I'm hybrid, is it A, is it B? We're not holding them back intentionally. There's a lot that goes into creating student schedules. We just received, and again, August 21st is really the deadline when you tell us whether you want in-person, hybrid, whether you want remote. I'm still getting daily requests for changes, and this impacts class sizes tremendously. Siblings will definitely be together, so you don't have to worry about that. We are looking at doing an alpha break, A through K and L through Z. And again, siblings will definitely be taken into consideration to place them into a cohort group. And the other thing I always say when I send home the letters about placement, remember there are so many things that happen during the summer. We have teachers who resign, retire. We have new entrants that come in. We have students that leave. There are so many things that happen during the summer that impact placement, and we want to make sure that we place your child in the appropriate group and the appropriate cohort. So just be patient with us. Our tentative date is August 27th, although if they are done before then, we assure you that they will be sent out before that time. Field trips at this time, again, the CDC and all of the guidance documents recommends all instructional field trips be virtual, so that's what we're planning at this time. I also did receive some questions about face shields, and I do want to show you a face shield. So this is a face shield. And so as you can see, although it covers my face, it does not cover what comes out here. So if you want your child to wear a face mask, a face shield, they must still have a mask. So I just want to let you know, because there was some questions about face shields, but that doesn't cover the mouth, which is really where the majority of the germs come out: sneezing, coughing, talking, laughing, you name it. Okay, Mrs. Murray, I'm going to now go to the second column where you will address the other items on building practices.
Good morning, everyone. Student schedules. Each class will have a typical schedule similar to those in previous years. It will include the core academic subjects, a 40-minute special, 50-minute lunch recess period, and grades 2, 3, and 4 will have a scheduled time for a snack break. Grade 5 departmentalization is still continuing. The cohorts of students will remain together for departmentalization in grade 5. So let's say it's Mrs. Cairo's class, her class will stay together for the entire day, switching classes. The teachers will travel instead of the students from class to class. and the students will not be using lockers. So they will have items will all be kept in their classroom because they won't be moving from class to class. In terms of social distancing, there were some questions about how are we going to social distance in the classroom and how will we do it in the hallways. Well, there will be a reformatting of classroom layout. Desks will be separated to maintain a 6-foot distance between them. And we're probably able to accommodate, according to Mr. Koch, about 16 students per classroom with appropriate social distancing. There will be a reduction in school movement. Special area teachers will travel to each classroom for art, music, library, and PE. They will have their items that they need on a cart. Mrs. Powerhouse ordered signage to be used to mark social distancing in the hallway, just like you would see in a supermarket. And the students will mostly be in the hallways during arrival, dismissal, lining up to go to outdoor recess. After school clubs, all events and clubs are subject to change per social distancing guidelines. After school clubs are on hold right now until September 21st, 2020, at which time we will follow the updated guidance form the New York State Education Department and the Department of Health will put out. Some events and clubs may be held virtually. More information will be forthcoming from our wonderful PTA. The 5 towns before and after school program will be up and running. The tentative start date is September 14th, and additional information will also be forthcoming. In terms of a semblance of normalcy, the structure of attendance will look different. So based on the parent-guardian survey, we have 252 students returning for in-person instruction. 34 students selected the hybrid schedule and 47 for online instruction. All in-person instruction is on the hybrid model until tentatively October 5th, until the 3 modes of instruction are reevaluated or we have any different guidance from the state. We hope to continue with as many school routines as possible and all the things that make Ogden such a special school. We anticipate that there will be adjustments made along the way. I think the students will be happy to get back into the swing of things, especially those that will be seeing their friends and the Ogden staff. In terms of class size, we anticipate, based on the number of students that are participating in remote learning and the hybrid program, that most classes will probably have between 12 and 15 students present in class.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray.
You're welcome. This is a typical classroom. This was room 29 that was set up by the custodians, and you can see that the desks are all socially distant from each other.
Thank goodness Mrs. Murray took over because I was muted while I was speaking. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. So yeah, this is what a typical classroom. I know we did receive questions about what will a classroom look like. So here you go, 6 feet apart on all ends, side to side, back to front.
Dr. Anzalone, you're muted.
It keeps clicking. Okay, so here are our important dates. Thank you, Mrs. Geese. Although they are in the FAQ and they are also in the guidance document, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that August 21st is the last day to decide which model you would prefer for your child or children, and the last date to change transportation options. October 5th is the tentative date, and I will say it again, tentative date to begin in-person instruction because there are multiple factors that go into making that date a reality. What are the dates if I want to move my child from full online learning to hybrid or in person? Here are your dates. Again, they are clearly stated in the FAQ. November 6th, January 29th, and April 23rd. Please note, you can change your child to full remote instruction at any time, and from full in-person to hybrid at any time. All you need to do is contact the building principal. That would be me. Okay, and now we're going to move on to our health and safety slide with Mrs. Rashbaum and Mrs. Griffin, the Hewlett-Woodmere Public School registered nurse and our Ogden school nurse.
Good morning. I'm going to be covering some of the topics that came up in the health and safety. The first thing I'm going to go over with you is for the health checks. We are encouraging you, highly encouraging you, to fill out the health screening online before your child comes to school. Staff also will be filling out these forms. If there are any questions on the form that you are going to be checking yes to, it will be flagged and will be brought to my attention or the nurse in your school's attention. The child will then be sent to the nurse's office and they will be checked again. We highly, highly encourage you to fill out these forms. It is so important. The second thing I'd like to go over are health practices. The school, the nurses, the teachers will be going over health practices with your children. It will be taught and retaught to them. We are encouraging you to keep your children home if they are sick. Covering their nose, their mouth, when they sneeze, washing their hands, socially distancing. These are the most important things that we can teach your children, and you can teach them at home as well. If a child comes to school and they are sick, they will be sent down to the nurse's office. All of our nurses' offices have been checked and rechecked for areas of isolation. If a child comes in and they are not feeling well, they will be evaluated. They will be taken into one of our isolation areas. The nurse will gown, glove, mask your child, check your child, and have them rest in this area that we have designated. The parent will be called, and you will have to come and you will have to pick your child up from school. We will escort them to the nearest exit by the nurse's office, and they will be hand-delivered to the parent or guardian that is picking the child up. The child will not be going through the hallways, thus infecting other staff members or students. I'm sorry. All communication regarding if a child does test positive for COVID, we take our directions from the Department of Health. If your child goes home, we are going to encourage you to take them to the doctor. At that point, your physician will test your child and examine your child. If a test comes back that is positive for COVID, the Department of Health will be notified, and at that point, the direction that the school will take will be the guidance from the Department of Health. At that point, then communication will go out by administration on what our next step is. So we will not be giving you direct information. Only the guidance from the Department of Health will be shared regarding any testing that is done on your child. The most important thing, and we're asking you as a community, is please keep your children home if they are sick. A temperature over 100, coughing, sneezing, shortness of breath, fever, muscle, body aches, headaches, any loss of taste or smell, sore throats, congestion, runny noses, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. If they look flushed in their cheeks, if they're breathing rapidly, fatigue, and irritability, and also if they're using the bathroom more frequently, we are asking you please to keep your children home. We would love to have your children here. We are ready for them. The district has gone above and beyond, and we just want your children back in school, safe and healthy. But if they are not feeling well, please keep them home because we will be calling you to pick them up. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Rashbaum. I just want to reiterate something important that Mrs. Rashbaum said. It is not up to the school. It is up to the Nassau County Department of Health of what to do if there is a suspected or confirmed case of COVID, either from a staff member or a student. And so we await guidance from them. They will come in, they will do the contact tracing, they will lead an investigation. And so again, we will reassure you as we get the information. If something like that happens, you will get the information, but it is not incumbent upon the Hewlett-Woodmere Public Schools District. It is incumbent upon the Department of Health to make those decisions. And before we go on, I know that Dr. Phil wanted to add something quickly about a form.
Thank you, Dr. Anzalone. I just wanted to add to Mrs. Rashbaum's very comprehensive and complete comments. We are working very closely with Mrs. Kavanaugh, our Director of Technology, to implement a state-of-the-art software that will allow the parents to complete the forms that Mrs. Rashbaum is talking about. It's basically a very simple questionnaire, and it's going to be online and as an app. And what will happen is the parents will complete this form online or on the app, and the school will be given a report of which children can come into school and which children should be staying home on those particular days. So it's going to be very user-friendly, and this is what we're striving for. And again, just to reemphasize something Mrs. Rashbaum said, the best precaution here is that if your child doesn't feel well, please do not let them come to school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fail. And now we're going to move.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mrs. Powerhouse and Facilities.
Good morning, everybody. So we have been instrumental in trying to get the buildings, my department, in concert with everybody in Ogden Elementary School. So when we start looking at the facilities and bringing the entire student population back, what does that look like? So we talk about cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing. They're totally unique things. You can't do one step without the other. Please rest assured, we pride ourselves in this district to buy the best product that will meet the needs of our students and staff while doing no harm to students or staff. The protocols have been in place. The team, and when I talk about the team, I'm talking custodial, maintenance, grounds, security, as well as food service, has been trained in how to clean, disinfect, and sanitize areas. Again, this is all in concert with the multiple governing bodies that we as a public school district must recognize. So who is that? That's EPA, Department of Labor, FDA, SED, State Education Department, Department of Health is key and critical in this. It is in concert in which we're able to proceed forward and open the space and doing it in a safe, secure manner. Reformatting the room spaces. It has to be in concert with the OFP, which is, and we use all initials here, Office of Facilities Planning, that's state education guidance. Lockstep with any fire prevention that we're doing, anything that we put in the rooms, anything that we do to change that space and what a classroom looks like, typically has to be approved and meet the testing standards and guidance set forth by New York State Manual Planning Standards, Building Code, and Fire Code. So with that said, we have been in lockstep in concert with SED as well as our architect of record in assuring that that has been done, and anything that we do to maintain a safe, clean, healthy environment for the students is in concert with the guidance and recommendations. Building codes I've already spoke to. There's multiple building codes, there's multiple fire codes, and multiple safety codes that we adhere to. And again, this is nothing new for Hewlett-Woodmere Public Schools. We have been doing this. I feel that we've been a little bit of advance of the curve at this point. So I think we are fine in opening the buildings in a manner that will work to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Let's go to the district safety plans. Safety plans, again, in concert with everything of the anything that the governing bodies have sent us as guidance. Again, talking about the different drills, lockdown, fire, and how to social distance within a space. It's going to look different than what it has in the past, but we are mandated to perform those drills as per New York State Education Department and Fire Code. Ventilation. Ventilation is key with COVID. We have worked to increase the ventilation. We are very blessed here. We've had multiple HVAC units the community has approved of. As you know, Franklin, Hewlett, Ogden was done a while ago. We are increasing all the ventilation to our spaces. And what does that mean? Increased airflow means mitigation of the contaminants building in a space. There should not be any issues with the ventilation. Every single school year, in particular this year, we actually go through not once a year, twice a year. We will clean all the filter media. We change the filter media. We grease motors and pumps. We change fan belts. All the outside air dampers are in good working order. And again, it becomes critical with COVID-19 operations moving forward. So rest assured, every single one of the buildings, not just Ogden, will have increased airflow throughout.
Thank you, Mrs. Powerhouse.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next slide is about lunch and recess. We received many questions about this as well. So if your child is in person or hybrid, and on the days they're in school, they will pre-order their lunch or bring their lunch. Typically, the classroom teachers had students go to the computer and fill in what choice that they wanted for lunch. For obvious reasons, we cannot have all children touching the same keyboard. The food service director, Mrs. Rosenthal, is setting up an Excel spreadsheet that will contain the orders of the students. They will essentially be prepackaged lunches, so students will no longer travel on the lunch line through the lunchroom. And you know, let's say it's a sandwich, it will already be wrapped like a little brown paper bag lunch. We will use the classrooms, not the cafeteria. The aides will cart the lunch to the rooms. Students will be sitting 6 feet apart, and they will eat in the classrooms. Of course, as I said earlier, outdoors will always be used when available. For online and hybrid models, and the other thing I want to say is about payment. There is no cash exchange anymore. We are encouraging parents to use the prepayment system, which is RevTrack, and I've included the link here. And it essentially takes you to the Hewlett-Woodmere Public School homepage. If you scroll down under Find It Fast, and it's not finding it fast because the connection is slow because of the weather. But under Find It Fast, you will see the online payment system. Click here for RevTrack, and when you click there, the first tile you see says lunch payments, and you click there, and then it just walks you through the process. And this is where you can pre-populate money for your child to order lunch. Breakfast and lunch. If your child is online and hybrid and you still wish to have lunch, it will be a daily pickup at the high school, much as we did during the closure beginning in March. And it will tentatively be, for now, between the hours of 11 and 1. If the hours change, of course, you will be notified. And it will be like a drive up, and you'll pick up the lunch from there. If you need to complete a meal benefits application, that was mailed home. I got verification by Mrs. Rosenthal on 8/17. The cost of breakfast is $1.85, and the cost of lunch is $3. Of course, unless you receive free and reduced, and then the cost is $0. Mrs. Murray, can you please discuss recess?
Sure. The favorite part of the day for most students, right? Students will be encouraged to wash their hands or to use hand sanitizer prior to recess and after recess. Our plan is to get every class out as much as possible for recess, weather permitting. As it starts to get cooler, a great suggestion would be to have your child dress in layers so they can be comfortable when they're outside. Our goal is to keep the single cohorts together, but since there are such limited activities for students at recess, we would like to have 2 classes, which would be up to about 30 students, to use the playground at a time. And our playground was designed, when we had it first designed a couple of years ago, was for 120 student use. But since we're on the hybrid schedule, there will not be more than 15 students per class. And we can divide the playground into 2 parts. So we could have on the A days that the students are coming, the first A day, one group uses the whole structure. The other group uses the zip line, the amphitheater, and the spinning wheel. And then the next day you swap. And so every 2 days out of a 4-day cycle, the students will have a chance to use the playground. The playgrounds are open in communities. I think we just have to be real careful with the hand washing before and after use of the playground. And then there would be 2 other classes that we're designing activities for that would also be outside, because we have 4 classes per grade level this year. So the bottom line is that every class gets to use the playground 2 days out of the 4-day cycle. And activities that will be available that do not require physical contact. During inclement weather, students will remain in the classroom for recess.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to Mr. DiBartolo and transportation.
Thanks, Dr. Anzalone. We've been working very hard at transportation. In our work group, we had assistant principals, we had a teacher, we work closely with the bus company, we work closely with our school doctor. So a little bit about some of the information that's going to be important for you. As far as capacity and routing, for the students we take out of district, and we have a fair number of them, we're looking at using more bus companies that offer school-specific routing. That'll place less, will allow us to have more use of our in-district independent buses as we need them and should needs arise. We have, as you know, surveyed parents to determine what students will not be using the bus, and that's a very big help to us. It's enabled us to reduce our capacity, as will the AB schedule. We're also continuing to use bus stops as we typically do, which are centralized stops that are typically at the closest corner. As far as seating and containment and the environment on the bus, masks will be required at all time on the bus. When students board the bus, they'll be directed to board from the back of the bus to the front of the bus, and they will do the reverse when they exit. This will minimize the interaction of students on the bus. We'll be asking the staff at the school to be proactive and to board the buses to ensure that we have compliance and that the students are seating on the bus in the best way to ensure we have a safe environment on the bus. We have worked with the schools to address their arrival and dismissal protocols, in part because we are going to see more parents bringing children to school. I will also add, although it's not on the slide, that part of the work that the work group did was to work with the bus company to ensure that they have the appropriate cleaning protocols for the buses and the appropriate screening of the bus drivers. So that is our transportation operation in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. DiBartolo. Okay, now we're moving on to social and emotional well-being. And this is a very important topic, especially now. You know, so many students and staff members and parents, we have all been impacted by COVID-19 in one way or another, and we don't know how people are dealing with this. And so we did have an SEL think tank at Ogden, Social Emotional Learning, that's SEL, that contained a psychologist, a social worker, special education teachers, mindfulness teacher, and they worked together to create a plan to meet the needs of our students and staff where they are when they re-enter Ogden. And they have created 2 weeks worth of lessons for the beginning of school. Again, the opening, typically when you start elementary school, it's about how to, you know, raise your hand, how to ask a question, how to walk in the hallways, how to go to the bathroom, you know, it's all of those behaviors. Now we're incorporating more than ever SEL but because we want to be sure that our students and staff are healthy while they're in this building, and that their mental health is just as important as their physical health. The focus was on relationship building and allowing students to have closure with last year's teacher. We know that, we had, all the schools had the wave parade, and that was wonderful, but students were very, very sad that they did not get that closure with their classmates and teachers. So this group worked on designing some activities that would allow for that. Opening the school day with a way for teachers to assess students' emotions before the start of the day. That's very important. Like, where are you? How are you feeling? So that we know where we need to get you, hopefully throughout the course of the day. Google Forms have been created to assess student emotions that are interactive. A BDB, which is a Bulldog Buddy, did translate the forms into Russian and Hebrew, and we're working on getting a Spanish translation as well. We will have mental health push-ins by the psychologist and social worker the first 2 to 3 weeks of school, and then thereafter as needed. The mental health office is open to staff and students. The Bulldog Buddies will provide peer mentoring and engage other students in mindfulness activities. And again, the outdoor space will be very important for some peaceful meditations and nature walks, and we will be sure to incorporate that into our daily work with students, especially the social worker and psychologist. Social stories will be provided for temperature checks, wearing masks on a bus, in school, and social distancing. And this is important for our youngest learners to see a social story. It's essentially, you put into a story what it will look like so that a child can understand. You turn it into a story, and lots of times we video little scenarios so that we can show students what this looks like. We do this typically for behavior when we want to show students what good behavior looks like, and now we will certainly do it for all of these new items that are being introduced into schools. We will continue our strong mindfulness practice, and I also want to let you know that on September 2nd from 7 to 8:30, we are offering a 90-minute parent workshop to deal with back-to-school stress for you and your child. And Hewlett Elementary and Franklin Early Childhood is also running a similar workshop, so that will be geared especially for parents, and more information will be forthcoming. Okay, so this is the teaching and learning models that you were given for your child. And of course, the full in-person is the student, your child attends school each day, of course, with appropriate social distancing. And we're hoping at some point with the use of clear plastic desk barriers in all classrooms, regardless of the use of masks. A hybrid model will be students separated into 2 groups, the A and the B. I did say siblings will be together regardless of grade, and each group will attend class as per the district calendar. I do have a screenshot of that we will show you. And the full online instruction, students will remain home. The difference with the full online and hybrid this time is that now we have cameras that are installed into the classrooms, much like the camera that you're viewing me on right now. And so while your child is home, if they're home on let's say they're in an A group and A doesn't attend on Wednesday, they're still going to feel like they're in the classroom because the camera's on, and so they will have that feel of being a part of the classroom, and they'll be doing the same work that the students in the class are doing and being given the same breaks for lunch, recess, and any other breaks throughout the day, and the same with full online learning. And this is a schedule of instructional days and what it would look like, and Mr. Flatley did put this together. And it shows, so for example, if the light blue is cohort A, they would come to school these 2 days, and then group B would come on these 2 days. And so it does equal the same amount of days for each group each month, more or less. So you see in October it shows 11 and 10, and then it balances out in November with 9 and 8. And this is something, Mr. Flatley created this so that it could be hung on your refrigerator for easy access, so that you know which cohort your child is in and which days that you need to have someone at home with them while they are learning.
Mrs. Anzalone, Dr. Anzalone, if
Yes.
I could just step in for one moment, if we could go back to the slide of the schedule. Thank you. I just wanted to point out something that'll make it, I think, easier for folks to remember when their students will be in school, which was the whole point of putting the schedule together this way. Essentially, A kids, the kids in A group, will be in school on Mondays and Tuesdays. The B group, will be in school on Thursdays and Fridays. And on Wednesdays, that will alternate. So at least for the first 4 months of the school year, once you have received the name of the cohort that your students will be assigned to, you'll be able to schedule that as Dr. Anzalone mentioned, maybe on the refrigerator, along with the calendaring of all of the other activities that families are involved in. And our hope is that this makes the scheduling ideas around the rotation of A and B a little bit easier for families to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Flatley, I know that you are up to discuss the continuity of instruction plan.
Indeed. So thank you very much. The continuity of instruction plan will be used really only one circumstance, and that is if we are forced to close schools entirely. That typically would come to us from the governor or maybe the Department of Health. And if we're forced to close for an extended period of time, we will move to this continuity of instruction plan. Let's take a look at it from the student perspective. Essentially, what students can expect is that they will have both live instruction with their classroom teacher and special area teacher, and they will also have an opportunity to work independently according to their own schedule. That's asynchronous. The timing for those two events basically splits their online experience in half. You can expect about an hour and a half of asynchronous time and about an hour and a half of daily live instruction with the classroom teacher and or the special area teacher. So just slightly more than 3 hours per day. And that relates fairly closely to the approximately 3 hours and 40 minutes a day that a student might experience in a typical day in terms of live instruction with a teacher in a classroom when we are in, say, the typical or more normal approach to our school day. So in a nutshell, as briefly as possible, but I hope as clearly as possible, that's what students will be able to expect in the event that we are closed and not allowed to bring anyone back into our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Flatley.
Of course.
And now Mrs. Peterson will discuss special education.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am going to try to summarize our special education plans. Please know that if you do have a child who has a disability, you will be informed. You will be given more information. There will be a special education question and answer sheet going out as well. We are prioritizing our special class program, so any child in a class of 12 or 8 or 6 will be able to return to school daily starting on September 8th. So we know how important it is for children to be in school. We know that the children, especially in these more restrictive programs, really need more support. And so we have prioritized those children to come back daily. If your child is in an integrated co-teaching or in a resource room program, those children would have to follow the hybrid schedule until we are back and able to be in person every single day with our full staff or full docket of children who want to come in every day. The problem with bringing in other groups of children is that our classrooms really can only handle about 12 children safely. So we are able to bring in the class size of 12 socially distant regardless of those barriers. If you have a child who has a disability and has an IEP or a 504 plan, your child's IEP or 504 plan will be implemented. Even if your child is fully online in this fall season, your child will have their accommodations, will be able to have their services. Our special education teachers and related service providers, as well as the general education teachers who are implementing accommodations, will have full knowledge of all of those documents. The teachers will still meet and go over all of those documents to ensure they are able to implement those services and implement the accommodations. We may need to be a little bit creative in some of those accommodations on days when children are hybrid and at home, or the children who are fully online. You know, things like preferential seating are a little bit more difficult to do remotely. It's not really something we can say, well, you know, Johnny is going to sit in the front of the classroom or near the teacher, but the beautiful thing of a Google Meet is that every child essentially has that preferential seating. If your child has, let's say, refocusing and redirection on their IEP or 504 plan, we may need to be a little bit creative and, let's say, have some sort of audible or auditory cue for them to be able to refocus, use checklists. The teachers will be creative in finding ways to ensure that every child is able to engage in the program and in their education. We will be having a developmentally appropriate management system, so Seesaw will be used for our special classes, even in older children, to make it a little bit more accessible. If we have to go to the continuity of instruction plan, we will prioritize synchronous learning, which we did in the spring and found that to be a little bit more effective than doing the asynchronous for our children with the greatest disabilities. Creating plans for the job coaching is not relevant to this age level, but as children come back to school, if we need to adjust their goals on their IEP based on their current performance, we will certainly do so. Again, there will be more information forthcoming. There will be a special education Q&A. If you have a specific question about your child with a disability, you're welcome to reach out to me in my office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. Okay, this is just to let you know that attendance will be monitored and recorded in all modes of instruction as per the district attendance policy. And last but not least is Mrs. Kavanaugh with technology and connectivity.
Good morning, everyone. The district will be using the registration survey that was given to the parents to determine who will need access to the internet and to a device. You'll be receiving a letter from my office today, which gives details as to when the devices will be distributed, which will happen before the first instructional day of school. So please look out for that letter. We did receive the devices for our incoming 5th graders. They will receive a new Chromebook to start the school year. We are working on outfitting all instructional, both indoor and outdoor areas, to be outfitted with technology so that teachers can be both indoors and outdoors to be able to live stream their classrooms. And students who are learning remotely will be able to access a live stream of the classroom. So it will look as if they're seeing the teacher teaching. They will be able to see the smartboard and whatever the teacher is presenting on the screen. And I'm just looking down to make sure I'm answering everybody's questions. Like I said, the letter's coming out. The pickup days will be September 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, but please read the details of the letter to determine which day your child should be picking up their device.
Thank you, Ms. Kavanaugh. We already talked about extracurricular. Okay, and so here's what I want to say. I know that this meeting went super fast, and there are questions that came in on the chat feature. Yes, we do have a meeting next week. However, Mrs. Kavanaugh is able to give me right now, when she's done with her 17 other meetings today, a list of the questions that came in through the chat feature. What I will do with Mrs. Murray, and if I need to bring in other members to get answers, I will type up an FAQ based on the questions that are in the chat feature, and I will just blast them out to all parents so that at least you have the answers to questions that you asked me today. And I assure you I will work on that. The latest you will get it is tomorrow morning. I just need to wait for Mrs. Kavanaugh to give me those questions. This will be, again, posted on the website, and I will send you another survey as well today if there are any other questions that you have. Again, the questions you submitted on the chat feature, I will answer them, so you don't need to resubmit them. But if there's any other questions or concerns that came up after today's presentation, please submit them on the Google form, and we will address them on August 26th at 10 a.m. and you will receive the link for that. Again, thank you so much for attending the meeting. I know that some of you are pre-K parents and you have your meeting with Franklin now. Thank you to all the members of the district who joined me today. And although this was 1 hour, we are here for you no matter how much time you need to ask us questions to make you comfortable for your child coming back to school. So have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, everyone.